Hey TRB fans, we're looking for your support to help us grow our positive Star Wars community on Patreon and expand on what we're able to create. If you join us as an Admiral right now, you'll gain VIP special access to the base with exclusive content, Discord servers, merch, and more, and you'll also receive a limited edition I Am All the Jedi magnet. You can't repel an offer of this magnitude. Get it? Because magnet? Anyway, are you ready to join the Resistance? Head over to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. I feel the need for Sheev. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Resistance Broadcast. I'm John. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today. We have our news show today. We're going to be talking about the latest hot items in Star Wars news. The hot stove is not as hot as usual, but we have some cool stories we're going to get into. James and Lacey with me as always. Guys, I was offered the opportunity to write the novelization for Top Gun Maverick, but I turned it down because of Top Gun canon toxicity with the Top Gun fans. It's just too much. So I was like, I'm not doing it. Good decision, bad decision.
You're
Real
so
question,
weird.
though.
You're so weird.
Real question. Would you, if hired, write the novelization of Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, why not?
What if they were giving you like, I don't know, $800 or something?
$800?
That's what I'm saying. Like, where's the line where you'd be like, oh, I really want to do that, but like, I don't know that
James's evaluation of my skill set is
No.
John, I'll give you $5.
No, I'm saying they're undercutting you and making it like a difficult decision.
Yes. You know what?
Like,
Though?
hey,
I might do it because that might be a launching pad. People like that guy crushed. Like really like like painting the picture of that high five on the beach with the volleyballs in my head so much that I'm going to hire him for my other project. They won't know how much that I only made $800 for that one. And then I'll make the big bucks when I write the novelization for Bill and Ted 3 or something.
Is this a Star Wars podcast or like, am I in the wrong place?
See, Lacey, you do this all the time, but then our tangents, you're always like, that was so funny. We're going to isolate that clip. We're going to post it. Like the Randy Newman stuff, like people are still talking about that. And you were like,
that was weird. That was weird.
And guess what?
The other thing
now we're in weird right now. It's happening right now. It's weird.
The other thing, Lacey,
weird.
is I know that the question is about the novelization of Top Gun, but I am thinking about the novelization of a movie, like the Star Wars movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Ray Carson having to do that, and how like John even mentioned the toxicity and stuff. So I'm still in the mindset of what we're actually discussing today.
John's not. He's in the Top Gun mindset.
No, I mean, I did bring it up obviously as a reference to what's been going on.
Yeah.
And it's funny that, other movies, like I don't think there are toxic Top Gun fans as far as
there might be.
You don't know that.
There might be.
I feel like it's all a giant Budweiser commercial. Like it's just
Justice for
everyone's just
Iceman.
America.
Yeah.
You never seen that? Or no, actually, it makes more sense. Justice for Goose. You never seen that?
Justice for Goose. That'll happen. Yeah, Goose deserved better. Goose's son deserved better. Yeah, they're gonna do the whole thing. Yeah. Or they're gonna kill Iceman and they're gonna be like, you ruined my childhood.
Yeah.
America.
Oh boy, Lacey, are we all gonna we're gonna fly James out and see Top Gun together? No, all right.
I'll see it with you, but I thought you were gonna see it with your bro. You were like, "This is a bro date."
100%. I had to see it with my brother, but you can come.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, I think
nice
I'm gonna like
once.
it, but I'm probably gonna walk out and say they could have cut that whole thing where they go to Canto Pite.
Right, Canto Flight.
Canto Flight.
Canto Flight Deck. All right, guys. We are fired up now, so no, we're good to go. That's what you call a cold open, folks. I didn't have the.
I get to go to the movies with John now.
Well, we'll see.
My day is made.
We'll see how things go. We'll be in the,
there it is.
We'll be in the heat of final celebration preparation, and the three of us may be killing each other at that point. So who knows?
John always goes, "Yeah, totally. We can totally hang out." And then when the time comes, he goes, "This thing came up. Sorry,
Lies.
can't.
Lies. All 100%
Sorry, I got
lies,
this
but that's
thing
okay.
With the thing and the guy.
The lies of Skywalker. James, we have the Resistance reports. Why don't you steer us down news lane?
Okay.
It's the Resistance.
All right. So Resistance report this week. We got a couple stories. Some interesting one. I think we're going to circle back near the end to Top Gun. Think about that. See if you can make the connection.
Who's going
but the
with
first
me?
story, yeah, the first story is going to have some spoilers. So we kind of talked a little bit about the fact that the novelization, that's kind of on the mindset because recently at Lacey C2E2, right?
Yes, C2E2 in Chicago.
At C2E2, they released early copies for certain fans of the book, so they have it early. And of course, they went straight to Reddit and pointed out every Ben Solo scene in the book and how it's different. And then later, when they ran out of Ben Solo stuff, they started talking about some of the other differences in the book. One of which, and again, I'm going to get into spoilers here, is the fact that the book narrates the fact that Palpatine's body is a clone and that also his son is a sort of offspring clone, like a mess up, if you will, but a successful mess up because it was the only mess up that survived. So, there's a lot to talk about here because I think general fandom have said cloned out, hashtag cloned out. I don't know if that's the case for everybody here, but I'm going to start with you, Lacey. Are you cloned out?
Okay, here's how I feel. This is literally the plot of Austin Powers. This is literally that plot. That she's like, I made you a son. He's actually not your son. He's a clone or something. It's weird. Very weird. That being said, away from that.
I can't remember the specifics.
Getting into the actual storyline, I am cloned out because I feel like that's kind of like a writing cop-out for Star Wars. It's like, oh, it's a clone. Da-na-na. But then at the same time, I wish they included this in the movie because we've talked about this in our review, I believe, for The Rise of Skywalker, is the movie kicks off where he's back and everyone's like, he's back, he's here, he's evil. And you're like, okay, but wait, what about all that in-between stuff of how he came back? Like, how is he here? And they're like, forget about that. He's just back. Just let's move forward and forget about that and start fighting him. And you're like, okay, but how did he get there? So this kind of explains that of how it happened. And I know there's a lot of theories and crazy things going around of how it might end up working out that, Rey really is his daughter, but I don't know. It's weird. It's totally weird. And then the idea that this old man made a clone son, some sons to possess, but then has a granddaughter and wants to possess her. It's exactly kind of like leading up to The Rise of Skywalker where we talked about it a little bit about possession and cloning and all these things and how it comes across really weird and sci-fi-y. That's how I feel about it. I feel like it's a little too far into that sci-fi feel. And I understand that it was in, the extended universe and they did stuff like that. But I don't know. I just can't grasp it yet, but I haven't read the book, to be fair. So I need to read it before I can accurately give my full opinion. But at first glance, judging this book not by its cover, because I don't have it, I don't like it.
Okay. I'm going to give my quick, and then I'm going to send to you, John. I do really like the idea of the cloning aspect. And I'll talk more about the specifics of it, but the general idea of where I think this is coming from is I don't think that I think that if J.J. Abrams would have put this in the movie, I think there's a very good chance that people would just right from the get-go would have been like, I'm out.
And I get that. Yeah.
And we can talk about the specifics of that because I think there's something really important to the way that they handled it. And when I saw the movie, I didn't like that they did that. But now that I'm looking at the bigger picture, kind of in a retrospective thing, I'm thinking, you know what? I think they had this conversation, and this is the best delivery of the inevitable answer that you have to give. And but I want to hear what John has to say, because John has kind of been on the like, I like the fact that they bought Palpatine back train.
Yeah, so there's a lot on my mind about this here, so I don't want to be too long-winded about it. So maybe we could bounce it off each other a little bit here. So a few things. They tell you that when you really take this information and go back to the movie, they tell you throughout that whole movie that Palpatine is a clone, without telling you with a sign like in Beetlejuice, like he's buried here, like he's a clone, ding, ding, ding. You have Palpatine saying, I've died before. You have him saying, again, that line, the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. As Kylo Ren is walking past tubes full of Snokes that are cloned, Palpatine's hooked up to a machine right next to it. You have Beaumont Kint saying dark science, cloning, and secrets only the Sith knew. It's loaded in the movie to you know, to connect to what he is. You make a great point, James, that if they just did the whole, you know, I'm a clone, or even advertised it that way, people would have been like standoffish on it. Like, oh, you brought him back, but in a knockoff way. It's not really him. But when you approach the story...
Remind me of that word, knockoff.
Okay. Remind me to remind you. But when you approach the story that it is his spirit and he possessed this body, I dig that. It also knocks out the need to explain that Palpatine, you know, had a romance or met a woman, and then what happened to her, and then she had the kid, and then, you know, it knocks all that stuff out. We've seen it happen in Star Wars with Boba Fett and Jango Fett. This isn't new to Star Wars. Who's the person who ordered the clone army to be made? Palpatine. He's been obsessed with immortality. This was his pathway to finding it. He wasn't able to find it in a way where you kept yourself alive forever, but he was able to keep his spirit in existence the way the Jedi can with Force Ghosts. I guess there's a way for the Sith to kind of do that in a way. Maybe they'll explain more on that. Maybe it wasn't an artifact. Who knows? And that's his way to find that immortality. So it ties back into the prequels. I think that's good. And, you know, I'm fine with it in that respect. You know, I am cloned out for sure, but if you're going to do it, it makes sense to wrap it up with the Skywalker saga in this way, because you have Palpatine, who was all about the cloning to create his empire. So this was his thing from the beginning. And for him to be able to tie his rise to power by creating the clones and ordering that clone army to his ultimate goal of achieving immortality, he can put those two things together. That to me makes a lot of sense. So it crosses a lot of things off, knocks those out of the way, and also puts a couple of things together. And I've been approaching this whole thing with a glass half full perspective, and I'm going to keep on doing that as we go forward. So I'm finding the things that make sense about this happening too, so that's where I'm at to start anyway.
Lacey?
I don't know. I have to. It's hard because I haven't read it. So I feel like I'm commenting on a headline / a description in an article, but I haven't fully grasped what the scene is and what the description is. Once I read that, once I get the book, which by the way, the reason I haven't read it is because I want to get the book and read it. I don't want to read it online. So once I get
have you not read the excerpt then?
No.
Oh, okay.
I read the article.
That definitely changes what I was thinking, because you said, I want to read it. I haven't read it. And I'm like, I think that's it. I think what you read in what they took a photo of is probably all the depth that they're going to go into it.
Well, that's fine. But I'm saying in the way it's built into the story, it might make more sense to me. Like once it's explained in the way they explained it, I might be like, yes, this, I can see why they went here. But at first glance, on the headline of this article and the descriptions people said and all this stuff, and just at the idea of him being a clone, I don't like it.
Mhm.
So
I will let you know once the book comes out and I read it.
Yeah.
Next
So
week?
John,
When is it? 17th?
18th?
Next week.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Week, I think.
So to remember what you were saying about the knockoff thing.
Oh, James, don't forget to talk about knockoff.
don't, Ted, don't forget to wind your watch. Like,
Thanks, future Ted. Yeah.
You guys are bringing up Bill and Ted a lot lately.
hey, I'm excited. I think that was what we, like you said before, when we were leading into Rise of Skywalker, there was the whole like, will Rey be a clone thing? And I have often said, I really feel like they're like, when you say the word clone to somebody, it immediately just triggers knockoff, fake version, like not the real one.
Sure.
And like, I don't know, it's not exactly the same thing, but like when you think of like a model of like a shoe, like a Jordan whatever shoe, right? And then you think like they make all these duplicates of them, but then when you go to the store, you're like, that's the shoe, that's the real version, it's not the knockoff. Like, I think there is something very real about a story where somebody has been cloned and they are not a knockoff, but they are actually physically the person. They are really the person that is them. Yeah. And I think I like the way that you phrased it when you said that they told you he was back. And when you bring someone back from the dead, they were dead, but they exist again, and it is their entity, it is their spirit, it is them to wholeheartedness.
Yeah.
Cloning is one very real way to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
To laboratorily, that's not a word, bring the flesh and the DNA and create it again. And it's, I think that there's a lot to be said about consciousness, and stuff. It's just really cool stuff. And I've in my past researched things like, when you say zombies, you think like a certain type of zombies, but there are these things called P-zombies or philosophical zombies, and it's all about like consciousness and stuff. And knowing what I know about that and find that stuff interesting, to think that this person is a body, a vessel, but it's fundamentally the same vessel, which fundamentally makes him the same person. I don't know. It's so cool to me that I'm like, I like this explanation even more so than just like the magical, like I don't know, like just boom. And then he was there,
Yeah.
or something.
I mean, I get what Lacey's saying too, that, I could see why people don't like it. And that's legit. That is totally legit. And I respect that. I'm just, approaching it, how it can make sense. And also another part, just like story aside, like, you're making a movie here and you're not going to bring back Palpatine and have it be Matt Smith. And I think that's what their original idea was, that he's going to be the new, younger clone, healthy Palpatine. And he's like, I'm back and I'm young and, but they probably realized you got to bring back McDiarmid. And so I saw people on Twitter like, well, why would he be a clone body, but he's an old man? And it's like, because it's Ian McDiarmid, that's why, and that's the only explanation you need. You're bringing Palpatine back. You putting the guy back in the robe who played him from the beginning, and that's it, and that's fine. You don't need to explain. And this whole thing about every little thing now needs to be explained, and your hand needs to be held. You need to label your planets and stuff. It's like someone brought up Tatooine was never mentioned once in A New Hope, and then we show up in Return of the Jedi, and Luke says, or at the end of Empire, and he says, we'll meet at the rendezvous point on Tatooine. If that came out today, people would lose their minds. Like, we didn't know that was Tatooine. It's like just this whole thing now where everyone just feels, or they pretend that they need to complain, that they need to know every detail. You don't. It's just, we're taking it way too far, guys. We got to dial it back a little. And remember, it's a very fun and campy and silly space fantasy, and let's not try to make it what it's not.
I will say with all this though, is I do think the sun part of it is a little bit of like, even Ray Carson specifically, like, I don't know what to do with this. The only thing I can think to do is say the kind of the mini-me thing, like maybe he's a bad version of a messed up attempt, you know? I still would have preferred to have known that Palpatine was younger and had a wife or a family, and then they found out that he was crazy and they like escaped him or something.
Sure.
I like that idea, and to find out that Rey was more of like a great or a descendant of Palpatine rather than like a more direct line. And I think that when you add up the math, I think JJ kind of was like, yeah, this is the story, but then it didn't, you know, I don't know, it just didn't perfectly line up for me. So I think that fell on the shoulders of Rey, and she's like, or not Rey, but Ray Carson, and is like, I don't know exactly how to make that a thing. And this was like the best explanation that they could come up with. So
I have
do
one more
you
thing
feel
on
differently
this,
about the son?
Lacey, what is your take? Because I feel like I've been rambling. So what's do you have anything on the son or anything of that aspect of it?
Not really. I mean, guys, I'm still grappling with a lot of stuff from The Rise of Skywalker, which I haven't really seen since the movies in December. And one of the things is like Palpatine having a son, which is now a clone, which somehow met someone that then had Rey. I agree with you, James. I think it would have been more impactful if she was a direct descendant instead of like this like kind of distant, like somewhat part of Palpatine kind of.
I think I'm saying the opposite of that.
But she's not a direct descendant, though. He's not really a son. He's a clone. So it's like, it's not his son's daughter.
Oh, I guess I get that. I guess I see what you're saying there.
I kind of agreed with what I thought you were saying, which is, I wish she was a direct descendant. Like, it's definitely his granddaughter. Now
like,
he's calling her
like
granddaughter, and I'm like...
physical blood descendant and not like a
and
science laboratory descendant.
I don't know. It's weird. This whole thing is weird. But again, I need to read it. I haven't read it yet.
I also like, and you know, you could say, you know, the Boba Jango thing. He called him son. He called him dad, even though he was a clone. You know, so the precedent has been there. But the other thing I like, you know,
I don't like that either, though.
Yeah, well, there you go. The son being a clone and being a good person is interesting to me too, because that is 100% who Sheev may have been had he not been lured by Plagueis to the dark side. We're seeing what he could have been as a good person, because if he's a clone, he comes with all of his blood and all of his attributes and all of his tendencies, and the whole wiring is there. And you see he's this compassionate, good father who loved his wife, loved his daughter. So that is some story I think would be cool to be explored in a comic or something, seeing, because then you're seeing what Sheev could have been through Rey's father. So that avenue I like as well. And then obviously we see what Rey turns into because of her father, even though she didn't know him very well. She kind of took on what he left in her. So all that's the kind of stuff I'd like to explore more. Perhaps just myself, because I know not all of us are into that right now. But I don't know. We'll see. But
yeah, I wonder what the level of clone that they're going with for the son. Like, is he supposed to be young Ian McDermott there?
Yes.
He doesn't really look like him, though.
That also makes me wonder, like, was Matt Smith supposed to be Rey's father?
I know. I thought about that too. And then I was like, stopping, just going by what happened.
I mean, I would have enjoyed that, because that would have made sense to me. Because then you see him and you're like, wow, he looks like Palpatine. This guy looked more like Owen Lars than...
That's what I thought too. Yeah. I thought it looked like Owen Lars, yeah.
But again, like some people when they're 35 look way different when they're 60. And when we first meet Palpatine, he's like 60 years old, you know?
Yeah, but he doesn't even have the facial structure like the nose of Ian McDermott.
Mm.
Like, you can go from being younger to older, I get that, but there's always some type of resemblance.
You know, and this is weird too, and I don't even know what the actual canon answer to this is, but I saw the Boba Fett thing as something different than I think it actually is. I always saw it as we made you an unaltered clone, which would mean this is probably how your child would have looked had you like mated. And it's not supposed to be like a duplicate of him. And I thought the unaltered aspect was just his age, that like he doesn't grow twice as fast.
No, well, also I think the clones were engineered in different ways and that sort of thing too. I think there was a lot of engineering being done with them.
Yeah, so I always kind of got the impression that that is supposed to be like maybe what his son would have looked like, or they, you know, like your son doesn't normally look exactly like you. You know, it's kind of a mix-up. It's usually like you and your wife,
that's
you know what I mean?
the difference between cloning and, you know, you take two different halves, and we're doing a science class at this point. But yeah, it's a completely different thing. But yeah.
But
Speaking of clones,
that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand that aspect of the son. But what did you say, Lacey?
Speaking of clones,
would you guys like to talk about when the clones were at the height of their power?
that sounds great.
Although you could argue that was Rise of Skywalker now, right?
Yeah.
So let's go with Dave. Our next story. Spoilers over. Not that anybody was able to jump to this spot specifically. Dave Filoni was recently asked about his experience with the final season of Clone Wars, specifically in the sense of, hey, you did all of this show, and it was just like, again, another episode. Now you've you knew what you wanted to do, and you have had time to let it soak in. What are your thoughts on how you handled this and how it helped shape the final season of Clone Wars? Lacey, what were your thoughts? You read this interview, right? This was from, if I'm not mistaken, Entertainment Weekly. Is that right? Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was super interesting. Dave has, I'm calling him Dave like we're friends. Dave
Big
has
D
an interesting
up here.
Yeah. He has an interesting way of approaching Star Wars. You know, he learned from George, so he always has this he's just different than everybody else, I feel. What is that, a brag for Dave?
Yeah.
So I was gonna say it's not a brag for me. It's not like I hung out with him.
I missed it, John. Did you do Sweet Brag?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lacey, here's another thing about Sweet Brag. It never has to apply or make any sense at all. You can just do it to somebody being like, where were you? Oh, I just went to the bathroom. You're like, Sweet Brag. Like, it doesn't even have to make any sense.
Usually John does it when I bring something up that relates to me. That's why I was like, wait, what? I didn't even mention me. Anyway. So
I wish I could mention
there's
me.
a couple things that stuck out to me. One was when he said technology doesn't stop, and that the facial animation was the most important to them making this show, the series, this season. And we've talked about this a lot, but like facial animation and specifically eyes tracking and stuff is always super important to me when I see any type of animation. If the eyes don't match up properly or facial stuff, then it just doesn't work. And then you end up looking like John right now with his eyes wide open. But he also said something along the lines of keeping it within the reality of Star Wars. They asked him a lot of questions of like, oh, what about this? And what about that? Would you ever think about doing this? And he said that, you know, at the end of the day, he just wanted to keep everything within the reality of Star Wars and trying to keep it on that, in that box of what makes sense. He said there were like, you know, people might think they would want to do different personalities for clones, or like, oh, maybe this clone will be like the Hulk from Avengers. And he's like, no, it's got to stick to what Star Wars is, which I really liked. I thought it was really cool that Bradley Baker did all the voices for all the clones. That's insane. That's so nuts.
He's like, pay me.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if he gets paid per character, like how that works.
He's like, hey, we had a few more clones in here.
Yeah.
Buy a car.
And the other thing that stuck out to me was that they didn't do any storyboards for this, which is just weird to me, because from growing up watching like old Disney animations or any type of behind the scenes stuff, you always see the storyboards for like Pixar and how the movie's going to go. And they didn't do that. They did live action blocking for this show. So they treated it kind of like it was live action, or they did treat it like it was live action and not with storyboards, even though oftentimes live action shows and movies use storyboards.
Mm-hmm.
So all that stuff kind of stuck out to me overall. I just love to see how what's the process for making these shows. Yeah.
I did like that, Lacey, the aspect of the storyboards. And I think maybe where the reason it's different is because traditional animation, when it comes to like drawing it, they don't have all of the assets ready to go to be shifted around. And when you're talking about live action, they don't have all of the assets ready to go to be shifted around. But in 3D animation, you can create all of the assets and then just shift them around. It kind of is.
They do it for Pixar, though, a lot, like the 3D stuff.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. But I think also Pixar is a whole like engine of making a movie 6 times before they end up with the movie that they really want to deliver. Like they revamp the story and they send it to another team. And there's a whole lot that goes into those. I think that the Clone Wars thing is cool. The thing that actually caught my eye the most is the fact that he said, given the extra time, I changed what we had planned. So had this actually the show not been canceled and they did this story would have been a little different, or the episodes would have been a little different. And I think that's interesting in the like what if world. Because I think what he's ultimately saying is this season in his mind is probably the best season because he had the most time to perfect it. And I think that's telling 2 or 3 episodes into the season, and we have a lot more to go. That's something to look forward to. John, what stuck out to you?
Well, I mean, 2 things, without a doubt. He approached this, being Dave Filoni and I guess the whole team, and probably with Disney's advice or advisory on this, to write these stories, assuming a lot of your audience is watching this for the first time and haven't watched seasons 1 through 6. So he introduced other dramatic elements or exchanges between characters to let a new audience know these 2 guys have a history. Whether it's Echo and Rex, or the Bad Batch guys, or whatever the story may be, he added certain elements that were new exposition to engage a new Clone Wars audience, and I think that's smart. And I don't think it felt like it was, we've seen this, like, why are we seeing this again? I think it was well applied, so I think that was smart. But him admitting that, I think is interesting. And I definitely think that Disney had a big part in that. They're probably like, look, we need an audience on this platform. You got to make sure you're bringing in new people too. And they're like, got it. Let's go, guys. And then the other thing, him admitting that he forgot a lot about the Clone Wars. I thought that was very refreshing. It made me feel good because I've forgotten a lot about the Clone Wars. I forgot that there was already a Wookiee Jedi, apparently, that when I talked about the High Republic, and I don't like that whole everyone gets a ribbon
I
thing.
knew that when you said it, but I was not going to be the guy.
I'm glad you weren't. Instead, it was General Greybeard, our resistance officer on Patreon. Yeah.
What's his
It's
name?
a little different though. That was behind the scenes. That was like, hey man, I didn't want to, but
Yeah.
I'm going to mention this.
Yeah, I forget what the High Republic Wookiee guy's name is. But yeah, I like that Dave said that he's like, I've forgotten a lot about the Clone Wars, so I had to upload a lot of information and refresh myself and kind of bring myself back to it after doing Rebels and that sort of thing. So that candid reveal I felt was interesting because sometimes, and I could be way off on this, I get this like, not a pretentious aura from Dave Filoni, but kind of like he has this entitled, like, he's the keeper of the legacy and that sort of thing. Like for him to really humanize himself and be like, look, I forgot a lot of my own stuff is very endearing to me. So I think that was cool for him to do that. I also realized how much I touch my face now that everyone's obsessed with this whole coronavirus thing, because I must have touched my face 40 times in this podcast. I know you're not supposed to do that. So that's another thing that stood out to me. And that's all I got.
I've been a long time fan of Dragon Ball. You guys know that.
Yeah.
And the creator of Dragon Ball is famous for not remembering stuff and fans being like, how do you not remember that? Like,
I thought you were going to say for touching his face.
No. For like characters like going through specific arcs or like dumb stuff like hair color. Like, how do you not remember the one character that had like this color hair? You just like forget, you know?
Dude.
Or
that's like...
literally it was like a long time thing where it was like, why did we never see this character ever again? And he openly admits, he goes, because I forgot that person existed. Like, it just is, that was the way that it is. He was tasked to write new stories, and he wrote new stories and forgot that main character was a main character. Yeah.
That's the whole like celebrity con appearance thing. I'm sure Lacey could touch on this. Like, people showing up and people ask them like all these like deep canon questions, and they're probably like, I don't know, like Harrison Ford.
Or like, oh, do you remember meeting me on this day? They're always like, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of
or
course. I remember
Harrison
you.
Ford's just honest. He's like, I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, but no, it's legit that people forget these things, but it's always cool when they admit it, I guess.
I also just think it's not that they like really cared about it at the time. A lot of times it's just like a job, or it's something they're doing, or they're currently working on a lot of things. Like we think of the guy, Kevin Kiner, you know what I mean? We just interviewed him on the show. We think of, he's the guy who did all the music for Clone Wars. Yeah, but he also did a bunch of other shows that are equally successful, if not way bigger.
Filoni's different, where this is his thing.
I get it. I do get it, but I'm saying in the sense that we said that's just like kind of the celebrity thing or the con thing. You know what I mean? People asking celebrities about when they were certain characters, and they're like,
I mean,
to be honest, like, how do you forget when you were on set for blank? And it's like, because I was on set a lot for stuff like that.
We can get into this more on Thursday with the discussion we're going to have, but even like George Lucas says Han Solo, like he pronounces his own characters wrong. Like it's not that big a deal, guys.
Not even that. Like, I'm almost on the podcast now for 2 years. There are things that I said 2 years ago that I don't remember saying. Or like people would be like, oh, remember that time you guys joked about this? And I'll be like, oh my God, we did joke about that. Mm-hmm. Like, I just forget jokes that we've had for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
We as creators in this podcast, or even when I was in the band, we would have fans come up and be like, you said this on the DVD, you know? And I'm
so
like,
funny.
What?
And you're like, sure.
Straight up, I'll be like, we released a DVD with that? You know? Like, I don't even remember those giant things sometimes. Yeah.
Legit, like at the day one of our episodes come out, we had recorded it a few days before, and I'll see something in the comments like, I can't believe John thinks this, or that was so funny when this happened. And I'll be like, did that happen on this episode?
You're going to have to remind me what I said. What was the vibe I was giving? Sorry.
A prime example was when one day...
Timestamp or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
What?
Timestamp or it didn't happen.
Oh. No, I was talking about a tweet I did. So I tweeted out like a poll of what people's favorite impression that John does was. And I listed all these impressions out, and people were like, how could you forget this? And I'm like... I did forget this. I think it was Daisy Ridley. I forgot Daisy Ridley, and people were like, how could you forget?
Oh, I forgot about that before.
I never thought about it like that.
I never thought about it like that before.
It's got to be higher than that. You're doing it too low.
Oh. I never thought about it like that before.
Why does she have a New York accent? Why do you always go to the New York accent?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. She's running a deli now because her story's over.
That's Daisy Bigley.
Daisy Bigley. Man.
All right. Do we want to get back to the Top Gun talk?
You got him. Yeah.
I thought we were
all right, guys. It's official.
Let's buzz the tower, James.
Project Maverick is happening. Right? So this story's really light. We really are only going to be able to give our impressions of this, but I guess like in the PS4 digital store in the European market for like updates or something, this image and some music were kind of ready to go, and somebody spotted it. And it is of this cool background with Star Destroyers and X-Wings, Imperial era. And it says Project Maverick in a very like solo-y kind of font and design, and it all looks official, and you got to imagine it is official, but we haven't really heard anything of this other than a couple things where people are pointing out, it is or is not certain things, and you can kind of tell based on what section of video games it's in and things like that. There's a lot of like little details to this, but what do you guys think it is? Are you guys excited for what it could be? What are your thoughts? Let's start with you, Lacey.
Oh, I thought you were going to start with John because it's Maverick. So I thought.
Well,
Flexing, checking the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so from what I gathered, this was something that was hidden on the back end and was picked up by a bot that was running through the back end code of like what this game was. And it's a quote, small, unusual game. So to me, small, unusual is like mobile, like a small, like, I don't know, nothing crazy. So like, I don't know, like a Candy Crush or something where it's not a big game like Jedi Fallen Order. But
yeah,
the
like
other
a digital PS4 $2.99 download or $4.99 or something.
Yeah, or something you might find on Stream that's super cheap. But
Stream?
the other, what am I blanking on?
Steam?
Steam. That's it. That's the
I was
one.
like, is she talking about Twitch or something?
No, Steam. Sorry. But what some people are saying is that it could be DLC content for Jedi Fallen Order that they're waiting for, which I don't think it is. And then some people are like, well, Resident Evil 3 Remake was hidden in the back end and then it ended up to be a bigger game. I don't know, guys. This seems to me like it's a smaller game. I know from my own work that getting something into an app store takes a lot of time. So this could be them trying to get into the app store earlier for a launch date of some sort, but not having a finalized game yet, just kind of having a placeholder. That's what I took away from it. What could it be? I don't know. There's ships on it. It could literally be anything from flying ships, destroying ships. It could be battleship with Star Wars ships. Like, you don't know. But
yeah,
the rumors are that it's smaller. It's unusual. So when I hear unusual, I think VR. I think AR. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing crazy. They're not going to.
What was the final verdict, John, on whether it is or is not VR? Because I thought the category that it's under definitely crossed out VR. It's not VR, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you see the word smaller and unusual at EA Motive, that has to make you think it's not VR, because VR is not small, and I don't care, what it is. VR to me is a big deal, and there's a lot that goes into it.
They did that VR, like Rogue One mission. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no.
You don't?
Yeah, no.
Oh, it's like an escort mission where you are like helping the U-Wing, and like K2SO and Cassian are in the U-Wing, okay. And then you get attacked, and like all it is like it's one thing. Like they attack the ship and you got to fight them off, and if you're successful, that's what it was. But it was VR. It was PlayStation. I think it's called PlayStation VR, if I'm not mistaken, like the headset and stuff. But
so EA Motive, what's their? I should have researched
their motive.
Yeah, no, but what's their resume? Like, what have they done for Star Wars? Do we know?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I should have looked into that too. I think the thing is I felt it was very clear that we just don't know anything about this game. So at this point, speculation is
first of all,
wild.
The funny thing, James sent this image, and the first I saw it before we started any write-up on the website, James sent it over on our private chat between the three of us, and I thought of something you made, because we had tossed around the word Maverick for like other stuff we were thinking about doing. And I was like, that looks like one of our designs. I was like, what is this?
So Motive made a single player campaign for Star Wars Battlefront 2.
That's it?
Star Wars
a single player campaign, so like a DLC campaign, or like the campaign?
It says, quote, our games, Motive Montreal worked hand in hand with DICE, Criterion, and Lucasfilm in creating the single player campaign for Star Wars Battlefront 2 with new hero Iden Versio. and a unique story authentic to the broader Star Wars universe. Today, the studio is pioneering through the development of a new IP and continues to work on the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just some kind of smaller game. I don't know if it's VR or not. The only thing I can go by is what they're showing here in this image, and that looks like an Imperial Star Destroyer, if I'm not mistaken, not a First Order one. And that looks a little Mustafarian, if you had to ask me. It looks like Mustafar a little bit. Is this, dare I say, Vader related? Is this have anything to do with the Vader game? Is this like an add-on to the Vader game? So maybe it is a little VR. So I can only go by what it's saying here. I don't know who the Maverick is here. I don't know if this is, I know, James, you had joked about Poe Dameron, right, on your Twitter account, because Holdo calls him a Maverick, right?
No, maybe. No, I think. Oh yeah, you're right, Holdo. Yeah. I guess my thought process on it was if they were doing something called Project Maverick, and it was right on the heels of something called Project Luminous, it's maybe has something to do with like a specific character that was like pilot heavy. And I joked that it was like all Poe Dameron stuff, but I thought maybe this is a new character, a new story where he's like a really good pilot and he has to go on this adventure, and his piloting skills are the things that makes it successful. But I literally am only saying that because it says the word Maverick,
Yeah.
It could be
nothing to go on.
Yeah, it could be DLC content for Battlefront 2, which they've already worked on, and it's a specific campaign with Poe Dameron in The Rise of Skywalker trying to take down all the ships at the end of The Rise of Skywalker.
Could be. That makes sense. Maybe they're trying to
release campaigns all the time, yeah.
They're trying to add supplemental material for this movie now that it's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I do not know. I had another thing I was going to say. Oh, no, you know what's funny? That, we got burned by this last week, which rarely happens, but watch, like 2 days ago, the real reveal came out on a Saturday because they're savages. And like now we know that it's this whole different thing that we talked about, because last week
I think it's fun to watch that stuff after the fact.
The comments in our episode Monday, one guy was like, you need to check your sources in your news before you talk about it. I'm like, hey, man, look, man, we recorded this before that came out. Who knew Mangold was going to hop on Twitter on Saturday, a hot Saturday night, and start replying to Ron Howard that he's not involved in The Mandalorian, which I still...
He might be not true, though. He, not telling the truth, because Colin Trevorrow said for months, nothing. And then he was like, I didn't do this. I didn't do any of this. And then it ended up, he had a whole script and he released all this concept art and everything else.
I believe, and we said this on that episode, usually when BSR says stuff of this nature, they talk to people and they know what's going on. And I can't imagine someone seeing James Mangold on set for The Mandalorian and thinking that was someone else. Like, I think he was definitely there. I think he's through lines may have been crossed, and he may have seen the IGN article, which made it seem like he directed an episode, and then that snowballs, and he's like, whoa. I went on set. Right. He showed me one new thing in the volume. He wanted me to see how I frame it, and I did that. It could have been something as simple as that, and maybe he didn't want that out there.
Or did a tour. Yeah.
So people are like, wow, that was way wrong, and that was BS. I'm like, we'll see. I mean,
sorry, John, it was BSR.
BSR, right. He may not get, a director credit or something, but I think he was there. I think he did something small, and I think that's that. So I think that was still pretty valid, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Russo brothers and others were there as well for the first season, and we have no direct connection to anything that they did.
Right.
But I don't even know, there's other people that were involved with the mainline movies, and I don't think they have anything in the official credits either, but they're very publicly credited as I called Ava DuVernay or asked her what she thought about these scenes, and it's like, she was involved, but like, I don't think her name shows up in the credits for anything. Right. I could be wrong on that.
And George Lucas is rewriting and directing the Cassian Andor series, and he's not going to get any credit on that. So,
or worked on a specific scene in Solo, right?
Right. No, he actually did. Yeah, the hanging up the cape. Yeah.
Yeah, and stuff. It's like he didn't get writing credit. I don't think. Like
no, he's like pay
probably
me.
Just based
Give
on
me those
characters
royalties
created by George Lucas, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's it for the Resistance report this week. Let's send it over to Lacey for the Scoundrels rundown.
Punch it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Punch it!
Punch it.
Guys, our flights are booked for Star Wars Celebration Anaheim. By the way, I saw someone recently said on Twitter that saying guys is offensive. I say guys all the time, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep saying it.
Lacey,
guys,
everything's offensive.
We are a little over 5 months away from the event, and we are honored to be attending representing Star Wars Newsnet and the Resistance broadcast. We hope to see as many of you as possible there, but we understand not everyone can make it. But don't worry, we'll be covering the entire event on the Star Wars Newsnet YouTube channel, so you can come along for the ride with us. Light speeding you right to content.
I just thought you were going to say, we know that everybody can't make it, so we will be covering your plane tickets and your hotels.
And you get a ticket. And you. Sorry,
Yeah.
I wish I could. If I could, I would,
Yeah.
guys. Again, guys. Anyway, loving the return of the Clone Wars? Question mark? Make sure you're checking out the Clone Wars fan show, which is exclusive to our YouTube channel. James rates, reviews, and breaks down each new episode of the final season of the Clone Wars. So after you watch the next one this Friday, head over to our YouTube channel and join James to break it all down.
John was pointing the wrong way, and I was like, he doesn't even know.
I would be the worst at the
James
beginning
is
of the Brady
killing
Bunch.
it
Yeah.
on
Thanks,
the
Lacey.
Clone Wars fan show, so make sure you tune in. Other than that, more news will come soon. I'm supposed to be going to Ace Comic Con in a couple weeks, but we'll
Hey-o.
see with coronavirus if I'm going or not. But that being said, Chewie, get us out of here.
You almost forgot the line.
I did. See, I almost forgot. We just were talking about forgetting stuff. I almost forgot the line, and it's been like 5 minutes. It's not in here, John. You need to write it in the notes.
Okay. Right now?
No. Chewie, get us out of here. Already there.
Hey guys, it is time to hear from you. That means it's Ask the Resistance time.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
No, I was pausing for it because James likes to put the graphic in.
You should just use my
Yes.
voice, James, underneath. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
That's
What are midichlorians?
That's a thing I like to do, John. I like to, sometimes that's just a thing I like to do, add those graphics in.
Yes, sometimes.
Da-da-da-da-da.
But sometimes we also answer questions. Actually, every Monday, pretty much.
Wait,
so
what?
You guys sent in your questions. We usually do a call for them. Hashtag Ask the Resistance. Anytime you have a question that you would like us to talk about on the show, so we give you a sweet shout out, talk about your handle, just tweet using hashtag Ask the Resistance, or you can email us resistancebroadcast@gmail.com. Or if you're a patron, fire it over on the Discord if you're tier 3 and up, or you want to message us, that's cool too. So a lot of ways to do it. And these folks did it. Lacey, you have a question here from Stephen Bowman.
Me?
At Stephen A. Bowman. So Stephen got his handle using the middle initial. So good for you, Stephen. Stephen asked, what things have stayed constant about your love of Star Wars since your very first experience at Stu Leonard's? And what has changed as you've grown and changed yourself?
First of all, is Stephen A. Bowman, is the A his initial, or is he a Bowman? Stephen
Both.
A.
Well, his last name's Bowman, but
Right.
I did think it would
But
be
is
funny
he a
if
Bowman?
he accidentally mistyped it and was like, "Oh, my handle's available," and he took it, and then he's like, "Oh no, why is there an A there?"
Well, it's it reminds me of the Canadian President Stephen Aboutman in Canada.
Is
My
that
name is
real?
Stephen
That's not
Aboutman.
real.
Yes. Well, it's not real. It's a South Park Canadian character.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm
all
not
right.
your buddy, guy.
I'm not your buddy, guy. Hey, buddy, can
I'm
I
not
finish?
your guy, pal.
Can I finish? Okay, I'm finished. I'm actually finished. Go ahead.
All right. What has stayed constant? What has changed? I would say my constant has been my obsession has only grown over time. That's what's changed, but I've always loved Star Wars. It's like kind of who I am and part of who I am as a person, and I'm sure like my values in life are based somehow on those movies because I watched them when I was so little. I think the other thing that's probably changed is the amount of money I spend on Star Wars. Didn't have any money back in the day, but now I've got adult no money. So when I need to pay bills, I just buy Star Wars things. And then also I think just like my love for characters have changed. So when I was little, I loved Luke Skywalker and I loved Leia, but I wasn't really a fan of Han Solo growing up. I just wasn't. He wasn't my favorite. And I feel like I've grown to love Han Solo more, and I find him hilarious now. When I was little, I didn't really pick up on that stuff. And then obviously I love Rey and Kylo Ren now, and they didn't exist back then. So I would say my love has only grown. And I guess that's my only answer. I feel bad because I feel like I should be like, oh, my love has changed in this way, but it really hasn't. It's just gotten more crazy, more obsessive.
Nice. That's legit. All right. Good answer. All right. Thanks, Steven. Next up, James, this one's going to you. This is from Nick T at the PJ Skittles. And
I love Skittles.
Skittles, I haven't.
You shut your mouth.
I haven't
Dude,
dabbled
those zombie Skittles, no
You
good.
shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Zombie Skittles?
I'm pretty sure they're called zombie Skittles.
Are they
you
Like
just
the
sour?
bringing
white
up-
package.
Are you just
They're not
bringing up
sour.
zombies for everything today?
That's what they're called, man.
What do they taste like? Dead bodies?
So supposedly it's like a bunch of random things and then that are like fine. And then there's like one really terrible one. On
Oh,
purpose.
so they're like Bernie Bot's every flavor bean from Harry Potter.
Sort of, yeah. I guess the same premise.
So it's like seasons 5 through 13 of The Walking Dead.
You keep bringing
I
up
don't know what
Walking
you're
Dead
talking
all
about.
the time.
I mean, I did everyone responded to my tweet saying they stopped watching
You
that show.
tweeted. So last week you were like, no one watches Walking Dead anymore. Who watches Walking Dead? And then I see a tweet today of, so who really watches Walking Dead? And I'm like, he's really pushing this. Nobody's watching
Nobody.
Walking Dead thing.
Nobody watches that show. Except those
Okay, here
people
it
that
is.
are commenting right now about it.
Every
Yeah.
pack of zombie Skittles will include a mix of 5 fruit flavors: petrifying citrus punch, mummified melon, boogeyman blackberry, chilling black cherry, and
it's-
blood red berry. The
a Halloween
twist is
thing.
that select pieces of the rotten zombie flavored candy will be mixed into each bag. So the flavor is rotten zombie. And
What does
it's,
it taste
Ew.
like?
it's just not good. It's just not good.
I gotta try this. All right. Well, anyway.
It's just not good.
The first result is Zombie Skittles Taste Test Review. The rotten flavor traumatized us. That's the literal first result.
All right.
There you go.
Well, anyway, the PJ Skittles from Mr. Nick T here.
He's like,
Nick,
guys, my last name is Skittles.
Yeah.
Nick, let us know if you're the heir to the Skittles franchise or you just like Skittles and if you've ever had this zombie flavor. All right. He said, will season 7 of the Clone Wars touch on the Emperor making clones of himself, James?
While I believe that it would be good opportunity and good synergy for the line, I'm going to go with no. I do have faith in Dave's circle of trust, but I do think that overall, since the movies are top-notch secretive, I'm going to assume that they didn't have plot points for, Rise of Skywalker stuff currently in development for the animated stuff. I would love to see it. If I found out that they go into that stuff and it's like, oh, this is cool because it's Clone Wars and it's the perfect time to do it and this wraps up everything, But I also got to think that Dave didn't write that story a long time ago, and this is his moment to finish the story that he started, as opposed to working in new material and kind of forcing it into a story that he had been developing for a long time. So I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with no.
Cool. That's fair. Okay. Next one here from Matt at MIB 1188. Matt asked, since we know the Mandalorian is going to be searching for the child's family / the Jedi next season, do we know that? Do you think that Luke will be at least name checked at some point in the season? What about other Jedi we know? So I don't know that it's a guarantee that he's going to go on some quest to go find Tiny Man's family. But I mean, we'll see. But do I think Luke will be name checked or other Jedi? I don't know, you got the dark saber thing, but that doesn't mean Jedi really. I'm going to say no, just because you don't try to fix something that's not broken, and the Mandalorian has, like, knock on wood, been overall pretty liked by most fans. And if you start tossing Luke in here, even with name drops and stuff, you start planting those seeds again of like people saying like, I don't like what they're doing with Luke now, and all that stuff comes back up. They don't need to mention Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian. It's already a very successful hit. So there's no need for it to happen. And to me, it would just be some sort of unnecessary like fan service thing. You already have the Mandalorian and Grief Karga saying they're not even sure what the Force is. So I don't know who would all of a sudden be chiming in about Luke Skywalker. So I just don't think so. And other Jedi we know, I don't know, maybe, but I'm leaning towards no on this one. So that is where I'm at. All right, last question here from Wolf King. This is actually Jeremie, one of our admirals in the TRB base. He said, besides the obvious lightsaber or dark saber, what is the one fully functional Star Wars item you would want in real life? James.
It's hard to, and I'm avoiding this answer, but it's hard to not say like a ship or something.
I was going to say ship.
Yeah. So just for the sake of that, obviously being like probably one of the more realistic or practical choices, I'm going to say Kanan's holocron that has Obi-Wan saying, "Don't return to the Jedi Temple."
Okay, that's cool. Lacey?
I was going to say the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
What else you got?
That's my answer.
That's so stock.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer. That's why I'm just...
It is an item. If it was a video game, it would be in my inventory.
Don't you think he means like an item that you could bring with you onto the Millennium Falcon?
I think he means that Lacey's right, and he's going to love my answer.
I mean, I'll ask him right now in the Discord chat. Be like, dude, Lacey's... all right, Millennium Falcon, and James said a holocron, so... Those are two similar sized objects.
I know, I'm like, mine sounds lame. Like
yours is in your pocket, and Lacey's like,
yeah, it's like,
I got the whole YT freighter.
Like I said, a Bud Light, and then she said Sam Adams, and I'm like, oh, I should have went for Sam Adams.
Bud Light's better than Sam Adams.
I don't know.
Like, does a droid count as an item?
Yeah, I would think so.
Then BB-8.
No, droids are people, okay? Droid rights. BB-8?
BB-8.
Right.
A fully functioning, yeah.
I am going to say a Bacta tank.
Ooh, that's a good answer.
How often are you hurting yourself that bad that you need a Bacta tank?
It's not even so much that, because remember when Krennic shows up to Vader's castle?
You want to wear a diaper?
Anakin's in there, and all the steam comes out. Like, that is just like this... It's like one of those oxygen chairs. What do you ever call those zero gravity chairs? And you're like floating, but you're in like your own personal hot tub, and people just mind their own business, and you're listening to like TRB or something.
So you're gonna wear a diaper though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time.
John, you just need to get one of those sensory deprivation chambers.
That's what I need. Yes. Yeah. And then it heals me.
But why?
Yeah.
But you go in that thing for like an hour, and it like hallucinogenically messes with your head. I just like that, like people today, they go in these carbon, like frozen ice chambers for like healing and like blowing your body temperature, and it's supposed to help with the de-aging process or whatever. I'm just saying
that thing looked comfortable. Anakin, even though he's like half-bodied, he's just like, the steam's rising up. It's warm. It's cozy. And he's like, what do you want? I don't want to talk to you. Steam again, you know. Give me a back to tank. It's better than your answers anyway. All right, guys. Let us know what you guys.
Terrible answer.
That's a great answer. Let me know in the comments if you would want a back to tank. And I
It
guarantee
comes with a diaper.
I guarantee a lot of people would say yes. Actually, I'd probably
Diaper and a face
I would
mask.
go full naked in my back to tank.
Ew, stop.
Anyway, I mean, you go full naked in the shower, right? What the hell? All right.
Yeah, but then like people are coming to see you. You said that people are coming to see you.
The
And then you're just floating
the
in
steam.
it.
The steam makes it PG-13.
So inappropriate.
The steam.
No.
John, I think you mean stream.
The stream. Sorry. The
Whatever.
stream. Yeah.
You know what I meant.
I was confused.
Guys, if there's one thing you've learned
he
about me in the
downloading
past 2 years
software?
is that I always say the wrong word
It's my
for
favorite.
everything.
It's my favorite steaming service.
Every time I have a rant with John about something, he'll be like, do you mean this? Because I think you mean this. And I'll be like,
Well, you know what I do mean is that we're approaching the end of the show here. I just want everyone to know that you may have had, I mean, we're on podcast apps that I didn't even know existed. So like there's one called Podcast Addict. I guess a lot of you are on that I wasn't even in tune with. I don't think any of us were. Just so you know, we should have, everything should be all fixed now. We did change our RSS feed. For us, it increased the immediacy of our uploads. So we get the episodes out faster to all of you. So if you've been on an app that's been, missing a few episodes, you should be good now. I hope so, because we've been getting a lot of tweets about all these different apps and stuff. So I hope you guys are good to go now. If you still are having issues, do let us know at Twitter at RBATSWNN. But other than that, you can go to resistancebroadcast.com, which is our page on Star Wars News Net, to find everywhere that you can subscribe to us, find out your info on Make Solo 2 happen, grab your t-shirt at tpublic.com. All that sort of stuff. But make sure you are subscribed to the show. Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Podcast Addict, YouTube. What are the other ones, James? Pod Smash, Pod Slash, Pod.
Yeah, podcasts. We're on Fairly Pod Parents. Just, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Chipotle.
Castaway. We're on just... all these ridiculous podcasts.
So wherever you
apps.
listen to podcasts, subscribe to us, because hopefully we're there. And then, like I said, StarWarsNewsNet.com. Make sure you're always going there for all of your latest Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Top of the show, obviously, you heard all about Patreon, patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. Go check it out. Very special thank you to our Patreon generals, Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Neel Lowery, Jeremie Myers, Neil Shah, David Probus, John Risi, Seth Keim, Micah Harrison, Tampa Movie Guy, Michael Gaines, and Val Trichkov. Generals, thank you so much for all of your support. You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and at StarWarsNewsNet.com. James?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks, and also on I fell off a horse recently and broke my arm. They've called an ambulance and they're taking me to the hospital to get a new podcast.
Nice.
The
Slow burn.
app.
You guys can also find James as he continues his journey on the Clone Wars fan show on Friday, which is, as Lacey pointed out before, exclusive to our Star Wars News at YouTube channel. Lacey, how about you?
I'm still boggled that you would want to be naked in a Bacta tank.
A Bacta tank?
Bacta.
A Bacta tank. I didn't know it was called a Bacta tank before. Do you want to put on your knickers?
People can find me
Chewbacca.
on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran.
Nice. All right, guys.
So weird.
We hope you enjoy your weeks, but remember, we're coming back at you on Thursday. If you're not a Resistance officer, we'll be back with you on Thursday. We actually have a lot of content
John's coming out of the Bacta tank.
I'll be coming out of the Bacta tank back into the bise. Back into the bise. The bise will be open. But on Thursday, we're going to be talking about fandom, basically what social media's impact has been on Star Wars and Star Wars fans. So we're going to have a little bit of a serious discussion, but don't worry, we'll have a ton of fun as always as well. But until then, enjoy your weeks. And we'll see you on Thursday with a new episode. And we'll see you around, kids.
Bye.
Is that a wood topic?